Welcome back to Analytical Strategy. Today, we are going to be briefly touching upon 12 subtle moves in Survivor history. We are in the big move era of Survivor, where you need a resume when you get to that final tribal, and that should include huge moves, idle plays, finding advantages, and anything else which can result in getting the jury to see your game. Now, whilst big moves can be a crucial part of Survivor, we can't discredit smaller, subtle moves from furthering people's games. Some of these moves may be barely remembered, or maybe not even thought of as a move due to them not being a part of these huge strategic moves we see each season, but to me they are just as important. Survivor is about one thing, getting to the end and getting the votes, and each move you make, big or little, should be a contributing factor to that occurring. So first up, we have Yau-Man peeking in Sylvia's bag. So in Survivor Fiji, Yau-Man made an extremely subtle move when Sylvia returned from Exile Island. As Yau and Sylvia went in for a hug upon her return, Yau quickly peeked into her bag to see if she had obtained the immunity idol from Exile. He didn't see anything, which allowed him to know the idol was still in play to be found. And with the clues Erlen himself obtained, he was able to find this idol himself later in the game. So up next we have Kellee and her hiding the idol within her hair. So along similar lines, when Kellee returned from the Island of the Idols, she did in fact obtain a hidden immunity idol. However, due to this being a more modern season of Survivor, contestants are far more skeptical of castaways returning from these external islands, whether that be Exile, Ghost, or in this case the Island of the Idols. But Kellee cleverly wrapped the idol in the bun of her hair, so she could openly empty her bag out and put on the charade that she really didn't want people thinking she had the idol, but all along it was in her hair. It was extremely well played. So up next we have Russell Hance's brief chat with Tyson in Survivor Heroes vs Villains. So Russell made a big flashy move in giving Parvati an idol at Tribal which caused Tyson to go home. But it was how this all came about which was really subtle, causing Tyson to switch his vote from Russell to Parvati. Russell didn't even tell Tyson to vote for Parvati, he just had a conversation stating he himself was going to vote for her. This small chat stating Russell was voting for Parvati resulted in Tyson switching his vote to try and maintain a relationship with Russell without having to go to the vote split scenario. This small, subtle move turned into one resulting in one of the biggest moves of all time. And that feeds in perfectly to our next subtle move, and that is Sandra hinting to Russell that Coach is after him. So on the flip side of the coin, Russell got a taste of his own medicine when Sandra pulled a pretty similar move against him. Sandra knew Russell played with paranoia and wanted to keep Courtney and herself safe, so she told a lie really casually to Russell, stating Coach was gunning for him. This lie of Sandra's worked a treat, and Coach was sent home in a 4-3 vote at the next Tribal Council. So up next we have Ciera and how she convinced Katie that she had possession of the hidden immunity idol. Now when most people think of Ciera, they think of that girl that voted out her mum, or the player that switched to go to Rocks when she realised she was on the outs. But to me, probably her most clever move was how easily she convinced Katie that she had found the idol. All she had to do was tell Katie that she knew that Katie didn't have it, because Ciera had already found it, and Katie's cards folded immediately. Ciera was able to flow easily on with this conversation, casually stating we can't let others know that we have it, rather than I have it. I don't think she even knew how smart this move was at the time, as when she told Tyson how she obtained this information from Katie was the moment Tyson realised Ciera was far more dangerous of a player than he anticipated. So up next we have another great idol move, and this is one of the more subtle ones I can think of, and that is when Malcolm and Denise found the idol in Survivor Philippines. As Malcolm and Denise were checking the basket which contained the rice, Denise said, "Are you sure we have checked everything on here?" as she is flipping the basket around. Malcolm grabs the machete and ensures he is the one that takes the idol off the top of the basket himself, and this is to ensure he obtains full possession of the idol. He didn't know for certainty this was definitely an idol, but in the chance it was, he would be the one that obtains its full power even though they found it together. Malcolm was then able to use this idol as a bluffing tool to get him to the final 4. So up next, we're going to be talking about Natalie from Survivor San Juan del Sur, who really played the definition of a subtle game. There were a few moves I considered of hers, but I went with one of the most well-played vote-outs ever. Natalie was against John, as soon as Jeremy was blindsided from the game. She knew Keith was a proven challenge performer, so wanted to keep him in the game as a better opportunity to beat John at the next immunity challenge. Therefore, she switched her vote to Alec at that tribal, and this caused him to go home instead of Keith. teeth. She played this off as a mistake, which John bought hook, line and sinker, and this enabled her to vote him out along with his idol at the next tribal council. So up next we have Caryn picking Willard over Jonathan in Survivor Palau. So this is a really low-key move, and it may have actually resulted in Caryn being able to make it deep into the game. So in the outrageous twist of a schoolyard pick and the reduction of the cast from 18 to 16, 2 players had to leave as the tribes were being formed, and they were Wanda and Jonathan. Willard and Jonathan were the last 2 males that Caryn could choose from, and Jonathan would be a pretty popular choice to most, being a pretty built young guy, especially in a tribal-based situation. Caryn though cleverly picked Willard, as she realised he would probably be the first boot of their tribe, saving her as another one of the older members of the tribe. As her tribe only had 1 elimination before the individual portion of the game, Caryn saved herself, and that was enough for her to make it all the way to the merge. Up next we have how Alex assisted in the Michelle Yee vote off in Survivor Fiji. So in another poor twist in Survivor, the newly merged tribe was randomly split into 2 temporary tribes just for that tribal council, which resulted in Alex, Mookie, Michelle, Stacey and Dreams going to tribal council that night. They also didn't have any time to discuss plans and had to go to tribal as soon as the challenge finished. Now in modern Survivor, they would just get up and have side conversations at tribal, but back in Survivor Fiji, contestants were locked to their seats. Jeff went around the group and asked each of them, what is a good reason to vote out this person tonight? And each of them gave an honest answer, even if they didn't want that person gone. Such as Alex is too big of a threat, or I haven't had the chance to play that much with Stacey, for example. But when it was time for Alex to give a reason to vote Stacey out, he simply said, I don't have any reason to vote Stacey out. And then he gave the same answer for Mookie and Dreams. He only gave a proper answer for Michelle, which in turn signalled other members of this small group to vote her out. It was a really clever way of managing tribal in an old school situation. So up next we have how Kim Tarzaned Alicia in Survivor One World. So Kim was always one step ahead of everyone else, and this was no different when she was able to convince Alicia that Tarzan, yes Tarzan, was running the game. At the final 6, Kim had her final 3 of Chelsea, Sabrina and herself locked in, with Alicia having a decent amount of control over Tarzan and Christina. With this in mind, she was able to convince Alicia that Tarzan was the mastermind of the game, and that he was going to take Christina and Sabrina to the end with him. This somehow worked without any glitches at all, and Alicia flipped to get him out at the next vote, giving Kim, Chelsea and Sabrina a clear run to the final 3. So up next we have how Trish was able to pull Jefra back into their alliance in Survivor Cagayan. So after LJ was blindsided, Jefra was ready to flip and join forces with Spencer, Tasha and Jeremiah to go full steam ahead to get to the final 4, and they solidified this plan in a reward that they all won together. But when they returned, Trish was able to pull Jefra back into their alliance by easing and alleviating her fears of Tony, getting Jefra back as a number and taking Jeremiah out at the next tribal council. And finally, we're going to be talking about one of the least subtle players ever, and that is Rodney from Survivor Worlds Apart. This man was able to keep his 3 Cs in check for a lot of the game, and was a huge threat in winning and taking the title of Sole Survivor. 2 really subtle moves he made was firstly to use his tattoo as a way to make inroads with people in the tribe in the early stages of the game. And secondly, after Mike's auction shenanigans, he didn't allow Mike to apologise correctly, and made sure that everyone remembered that Mike almost cost them their letters from home. I would love to see Rodney back in a future season. There are so many small subtle moves in Survivor history, and these are just 12 examples of this. What other subtle moves can you think of? Please let me know in the comments. As always, if you are enjoying this content, please hit subscribe, as the quicker the channel grows, the more content I will be able to release. Thank you all so much for watching. This is Analytical Strategy, and we're signing out once again. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.